everybody. Welcome. This is the Don't Die Summit stream. I hope you know no one will be dying ever again. I have actually created a religion around this prophecy that I have received from Source Energy. I've downloaded it, and they told me to tell you that death is no longer a necessary evil of life. And now, as long as you buy my supplements that are dragonberry pineapple flavored, then you shall too live in infamy and also live immortally. Amen. Welcome. I'm in the backyard. This is my pool in Venice, California, if you're unfamiliar with the area. And I'm just hanging out at Bryan Johnson's house. We go way back. Actually, he knows me, okay, for sure. At least he's seen my face at least once in his life, and I will tell you why in just a quick sec. But we're going to be talking about Bryan Johnson, the man who doesn't think he's going to die, which, here's my hot take. I don't think, and I think I'm not the first one who said this most likely, he knows that this is all bullshit. This is all a marketing scheme. It's all a PR stunt for his supplement brand. He knows very well that he's gonna die. He knows very well that what he's doing is not science in the sense of it could not be applied. Like one person's, anecdotal evidence is not applicable to humanity is now saved because I'm here. That's my 2 cents. However, I also believe that he might be dipping his toe into maniacal narcissism. I don't know. We're going to find that out today too, because I just found a interview he gave 9 months ago. Hot Piping Tea. It only has 7,000 views. And in the intro, he's like, I think that we are all God and I want to become God. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Here comes the crash out, the millionaire crash out coming. The guru craziness, because his ego has been so inflated by people buying into this don't die bullshit. Anyways, so we'll get to that. We're going to talk about the drama. There's a lawsuit, more lawsuits, more receipts that Bryan has provided against his ex-girlfriend, Taran Southern. And as much as I don't like Bryan Johnson, because I think he's a scammer, that's what I think he is. I think he's doing this whole thing for attention because he really likes attention. As we know, he likes people focused on him. He gives a lot of, He gives a lot of airtime and attention to other YouTubers. He really wants to be covered and interviewed and do these podcasts. That's what I think he's after. He's got more than $100 million, according to the New York Times. So I don't think he's after money at this point. I think he's after power and fame, which he's getting. And we'll listen to him talk about, but maybe it's hit him. Maybe, it started off as a ploy to get famous, to get some Instagram followers, and now it's become full-blown religious narcissism, where he believes he's the new coming of Christ. So we'll see. We'll hear him out, see what he has to say. Maybe he's got some thoughts, some ideas. Okay, but the reason why I know that he knows me, at least he's seen my face at least once, is because I was if you haven't seen it, on Netflix, I was featured. Myself, and I were featured in his Netflix documentary called The Man Who Don't Die, The Man Who Wants to Live Forever. Okay, so if you watch this documentary on Netflix right now, and I found this out on Christmas of this year or of last year, and my friend from college texted me, was like, hey, why didn't you tell me you're in this documentary on Netflix? I was like, I did not know. No one contacted me. No one asked me. And they did not credit me in the credits, which I was like, not thrilled about, I guess. I would have taken a little shout out, or at least they could have put my name in there so that people could look me up. But they just cut a piece of my live stream from a year or two ago where I was talking about the lawsuit between his girlfriend Taran and him, and it was maybe 10-15 seconds or something. But no, I didn't get any compensation. I didn't even get, again, no credits, thanks for the video, nothing. I don't know the rules, but yeah, that happened to me. So I'm a victim of Bryan Johnson's, fame. And thank you. Welcome, Flynn Kelly. Welcome. Thank you for becoming a member. So we're going to talk about, let's start with the most hot piping tea. Now, again, as much as I don't like Bryan Johnson, I think he is correct on this one point. Okay. So just to catch you up, Bryan Johnson's a multi-millionaire, $100 million plus millionaire. He built a company. He was a Mormon. He started this company, called Braintree that absorbed Venmo. So Braintree acquired Venmo, and then PayPal acquired that company. And thanks, Flynn, for giving other people memberships. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think 20. Dang! Thank you so much. Hold on, that deserves like a couple shout outs. Hold on.
Am I crazy or is the calculator broke?
You're a loser. Still using Yahoo, huh?
Everyone sign up with their memberships with yahoo.com emails, please.
I made one decision, I took one risk and said, I'm going to start an Airbnb business.
Have a good one, sir.
Get the fuck out of here.
I got 4 toes on one foot. My sister ran me over with a lawnmower.
Okay, one more. Because Flynn, you deserve all the sound bites. Here's one more.
We are now live, mofos.
That's true. We are now live, mofos. Okay. So anyway, so then Bryan becomes this millionaire. He starts another company after he sold his Braintree company to PayPal called Kernel. Okay, so he had this company. He's no longer with the company. He stepped down, but I think he's on the board or something for this, but it's kind of like Elon's Neuralink, but it's this helmet that looks like a Bose speaker. But it's supposed to do something with neuromedicine. I haven't heard what it actually does, if it's good, if it's like just, a rich guy's side project, not sure. But he's no longer with the company in an official capacity. He also he owns this fund called OS Fund, which, okay, there's a little kernel of interesting tidbit here that I'll read. But thank you to Flynn Kelly again. Thank you so much. Flynn Kelly, you are the MVP of this stream so far. Flynn Kelly says, been watching since the beginning. Keep it the fuck up, girl. Love your work. Oh, thank you so much, Flynn. That's so sweet. Are you here for the Chronically Rara Chronicles? Oh my gosh. Are you here for the Rachel Hollis beginnings?
I'm a medium. I channel all day.
This is for you. Are you healed yet?
Ray.
And finally, Flynn, last one.
If you do have a wife, I feel sorry for her.
I don't. I don't feel sorry for your wife. I feel like she's probably great. And that was a mean soundbite. Okay, another one. I'll give you another one.
Comment the word brainwash and we will send you the entire episode.
There you go. That's the one. Thanks, Flynn. I appreciate it. And everyone else does too. All the new members. Woo! Welcome. You have a timeshare in Hollisville. So do I. I'm almost done, by the way. I'm like 90% done editing this video, by the way. It's almost there. Editing takes so long. Am I right? Okay, anyways, back to Bryan Johnson. Okay, so he started this fund to fund other startup companies. Okay, in 2014 he started it. And it invests in scientists, entrepreneurs, predictably engineering atoms, molecules, organisms, and complex systems. Okay, so this is what the fund has already done, allegedly. OS Fund companies have created self-fertilizing crops, okay, are storing information in DNA to make biology your next hard drive. Okay, not sure about that one. And designing proteins that nature never got around to over a few billion years of evolution. I don't know what that means. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, but that's what he's up to on the side. He doesn't talk about this at all. He only focuses on he's got supplements, which makes no sense because even if it's profitable, it's like the lowest hanging fruit. Anyways, he has a company called Blueprint, and that is the company that's sort of the most controversial because it's all about him and what he eats and the supplements he takes, and he's claiming that if you buy his powder or supplement, you'll be getting the same stuff that he gets. But we all know that that's bullshit, right? Like, we know that him eating 25 plates of organic broccoli cooked by a chef at his LA house is not the same thing as taking a smoothie powder that he sells online. Just so we all know, okay? Asari Shepherd, thank you so much to Asari Shepherd. Asari says, I'm scared. What was that soundbite? Which one? Which one?
I'm scared.
I'm scared. Let's see, what else we got?
To all of my haters, miarakoya tatairikia shisiaratukoya hirikia atashukoya manatata hirikia.
Wow. And then finally, Asari, this is for you.
If you do have a wife, I feel sorry for her.
If you do have a wife, I'm sorry for her, says a woman that we heard about once. And finally, this.
Oh, why does the sky look like a grid?
That's Danica Patrick for you. Thank you, Asari. And Sahari Monster, thank you so much. Sahari Monster chose a purple cat. Taro. Maybe she'll come visit us. Taro. For you, I say this, Sahari.
Get the parasites when they're partying.
Hell yeah. Finally?
This is gold, straight up.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. Let's go to Blueprint real quick. Just so you can see the website. And so it just looks like any other scammer's, supplement company. It's very basic. Basic AF. For him having so much money, like over, hundreds of millions of dollars, for him to just make this, it's like... And he, funnily, he's got a product called snake oil. So he's in on the joke. What you can get is, and you're supposed to get these stacks. I don't know. You can't just buy like one smoothie pack. You got to buy a stack. You have to get all of the things. That's his son, by the way, if you couldn't tell. He's got the Don't Die merch. There you go. Claim your free original Don't Die t-shirt or hoodie with your first stack subscription. So you have to subscribe to this. So let's just click it in. This is the foundation stack, okay? And you get 13 health actives to support energy, metabolism, recovery, and vitality, which is like, again, some sort of pink drink that I cannot imagine is not just chemicals, as they're all against chemicals. Extra virgin olive oil that he calls snake oil. Okay. It's cold pressed for purity. Okay. Cocoa powder. So this guy's selling you cocoa powder and you have to subscribe for it, I guess. But I could pay with my FSA and my HSA. Oh, it's basically like free money. Ah! And he pops up and says, did you forget your free merch? Don't die or I'll haunt you for your life. Yeah, so you get a pink drink. It looks very organic, very natural. It's blood orange. It's got, 3 grams of carbs, 10 calories, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, creatine, calcium, taurine, blah, 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 blah. Looks like pretty small amounts of that. But that's it. It's so different than Centrum 21. And then you can go down the line, I meant to say. You can get capsules for energy, focus, recovery, sleep, longevity, soft gels. Ooh, exciting. Fat soluble nutrients. And you can get NAC ginger curcumin, blueberry nut mix. Ooh, red yeast rice, odor-free garlic, and metabolic protein times 2. So that's what he's hawking. Okay, and he's got a whole... I think he's self-obsessed, if you couldn't tell. He really loves his own personal story. You have a whole page. It's called Bryan's Journey. So it's a timeline of his life, which I think is a little bit like, get a grip, dude. But that's my personal take. So he's talking about his mission trip in Ecuador. Okay, then he was a CEO, founder of a startup. Okay, then he went insane. Then he went full blown. What's the movie where that guy's got all the shocks in his head? What's that movie where isn't it Blade Runner? He looks like Blade Runner. A Blade Runner. So he was saying he was really bad at night. He wanted to smoke ciggies and drink, tequila, soda, sunrise waters or something. And he was like, hurting himself because he was bad at nighttime. He went wild and he looked like this, cyborg from the future. But then he was a dad. Oh my God, he was just a dad. He's just a little dad. So he changed. But then he became Blueprint Bryan. So he changed again for the better, I guess, in his words. And now he's Don't Die Bryan. Okay, now this is something that I feel like you were okay at I was into it. I mean, not really, but I was okay with all of it, the timeline, until Don't Die Bryan. This is where I go, okay, now this is too far for me as a consumer of this content, even as a hater consumer. This is what Don't Die Bryan says. Just let me know how you feel, if this is a rational, reasonable thing to say about yourself, about anyone to say about themselves. Okay, here we go. Now is the first time in 2,000 years for a new globally adopted ideology to emerge. This is the first time in 2,000 years a new thought has come to anyone, actually, to any person walking the earth. He's the first one in 2,000 years to have any ideas. AI is progressing faster than any of us can comprehend, causing us to re-examine everything we think about ourselves, each other, and society. This is now humanity's to-do list. Okay, here's humanity's to-do list. Ready? Given to us by Bryan Johnson. Don't die individually. You can die as a group. Mass killing, fine. We're all for that. But don't die on your own. Don't kill each other. Okay? All right, I take back what I said. Don't destroy the planet. I agree, but why are we selling supplements in plastic bags on your website? Okay. Align AI with don't die. I have no idea what that means. I guess we will find out because he started a new religion. And we could use Klarna to buy his supplements. Amazing. Yay. Okay. So let's do the Taran thing first. Okay, so this, if you don't know, is Taran Southern. This is the infamous ex-girlfriend of Bryan Johnson. Now, she made this, the audio is irrelevant, it's just a song. She made this Instagram, let's see, on February 17th. Okay, so she just had a Valentine's Day, maybe she's alone. I don't know if she's single or whatnot now, but maybe she was like a little bit pissed off that, Bryan Johnson's shown off his erections on YouTube and was like, I'm mad. She lost the 2 lawsuits that she put against him, and she actually owed him money at one point, apparently. We're going to talk about that in a second. He'll explain it, but she's probably pissed off at him, which, rightly so. I don't think she deserved to go to court with him to receive financial compensation because they weren't married. I think there is a line in the sand. If you're married, then you deserve half. If you're not, I don't personally, whatever. I just think it's unreasonable because just because he has money, that means that you should get money? I don't know. That seems crazy to me, and I guess the judge agreed with my stance on that. Anyways, so she is now making this post about how Bryan abandoned her and was an asshole to her while she had cancer. Okay, so we're going to watch this one first, and I'll read it to you. So it says, a before and after I never saw coming. In July 2019, I was in the middle of chemotherapy and planning my wedding. Okay, very nice dress. She's in the wedding shop. Okay, super. I love this dress. I love it. So classy, girl. Okay, same thing. So just more pictures. Okay, it says, getting married was the one thing I had to look forward to. Okay, cute dress. I like that one better. All right, then it says, 3 months later, I was suddenly alone, navigating surgery and radiation, trying to find a new place to live, wondering how I would make it through the rest of treatment. Okay, so this is very important. So she's saying while she's going through treatment, during this video, presumably, is the narrative she wants to tell, is that she was suddenly alone because Bryan had left because she was now diagnosed with cancer. Okay, so she's sad. Okay, this is October. Okay, this is important. October 22nd. Let's see. Okay, so it says 3 months later, I was suddenly alone. The confusion, grief, and despair were so overwhelming, I cried myself to sleep every night through the rest of treatment. Few weeks after surgery, I packed up my things in boxes and cardboard bags. Cardboard bags? Is this new technology I'm unaware of? Okay. All right, there's her stuff. There's her top hat. Very important. Make sure you always bring your straw top hat with you when you're moving out. She's got Erewhon bags. Erewhon, come on. It's the stupidest place ever. Okay. I was too afraid to tell anyone what was happening, including some of my closest friends. But I did record myself crying. Okay, sorry. I just do think it's very weird that people record themselves crying. It's very odd. Selena Gomez. Sorry. Excuse me. I just kept praying for the nightmare to end. Okay. So there you go. My best friend flew across the country and moved me into a little 600 square foot studio cottage. Okay. Again, we got Erewhon bags. She's feigning, that she's going into a tiny square foot apartment, which in LA is probably not cheap. But not unusual either. Okay. My best friend flew across the country and moved me to a little studio, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. 8 weeks later, COVID hit. My new home was broken into and ransacked, and I was let go from my only source of income and source of health insurance. Okay, that is apparently from Bryan's company, Colonel, with the head thing, was where she was before. And I guess she was let go from that. I don't know the exact details, but she got broken into at her apartment. Okay, so it's showing the ransackingness. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't recognize my life. I thought maybe it would be easier if I didn't make it. Okay, we all know what she's saying there, which is not good. Not a positive thing to think, obviously. Okay, more footage of her at the hospital, but I did. So she doesn't name anybody. She doesn't say, Bryan, you're a jerk, but I think people familiar with this was a national story at one point, did know who she was talking about. In May of 2020, I finished my 17th and final infusion, and I began slowly rebuilding my life. Okay. Oh, cute. I need this shirt. Please. What shirt is this? I need it. Sometimes this life will break you. Sometimes it will reshape you, but it will always show you what you're made of. Girl boss. And we are made so much more than we could ever imagine. Made of so much more. Made for more. Oh, I've heard that somewhere. Okay, so that's her narrative, right? Again, she doesn't tag him. She doesn't say Bryan Johnson specifically, but I know that's the narrative that she has told her lawyer, who then put that into writing for the judge. We went through the whole lawsuit. That's who she's talking about. Okay. So then Bryan had a rebuttal, and I gotta say once again, he got her on this one. He brought the receipts. Here you go.
Well, my ex says that I dumped her when she got cancer, and now the New York Times is preparing a hit piece based upon her stories. I'm going to tell you what really happened. She began harassing me 5 years ago after we broke up. She demanded that I pay her $9 million, or else she would say horrible things about me publicly. I knew the allegations were false, and I would not cave to this dark and twisted practice. She then came after me legally and lost twice. The court ordered her to pay me $500,000. But sadly, that did not stop the media or the internet from continually calling me a monster. Even though it's been 5 years, last week she posted a new IG reel.
Okay, and I just want to make a side note. It's not illegal to be an asshole, okay? I don't like what a lot of people say, especially politically. There's things that I think are not nice things to say, not good things to say about anybody. But I'm a 100% free speech warrior, okay? Not in the traditional sense that I think that phrase has been co-opted to mean. But I do believe in free speech so much so that, like, I'm willing to hear horrible, horrible things for the right for people to say whatever they want. Because I think it's very important in America and elsewhere to be able to say what you want and not to be muzzled in any way based on, who's in charge of the country at any given time. I think you should be able to say what you want and let the consequences come to you, but not be, arrested or deported or any of these things that are happening now, or banned in the government from saying these things. Okay, that's my side note. So again, yes, he is a jerk. I'm sure he is. He's got a lot of issues, you know, with his mentality about things. But even if he did leave his girlfriend and say, I am not going to date a cancer patient, that's his right to do so. Like, that's his right. And I don't think he should have been sued for it. I feel like people should be allowed to be jerks. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Anyways, okay, back to it.
It got 5 million views. It's the same story she told before. I'm a monster for abandoning her when she got cancer. So here are the facts using evidence. I didn't want to share these videos. I don't want to share this publicly, but she has so deeply damaged my reputation, I have no choice. I'm going to play for you 30 seconds of her reel and then show you evidence. You decide. Pay close attention to the clip she uses.
Okay, I'm just going to mute this sound. We already saw this in its entirety. Okay. I'm surprised she still has it up, to be honest. I'm surprised that she wouldn't have taken it down by now.
She starts her reel in July of 2019. She was diagnosed with cancer in May of 2019, and I supported her through the entirety of her cancer treatment. Here's a picture of us together on the first day she received treatment in June. In her reel, she claims that I abandoned her during her treatment in October of 2019. Notice the date, it's October 22nd, 2019, and that she's wearing a pink top. This was from her surgery, I know, because I was there. Here is another clip from her reel with the same pink top.
And I feel pretty good.
Remember anything the nurses said to you?
No.
Here's another clip from the reel. In the raw footage, she explicitly acknowledges my presence.
They're done. Just waiting on Bryan to come back.
A reminder, she claims that she was suddenly alone. She also includes this clip in her reel. Here is the raw footage. Where are you going, Taran?
Going to the bar.
That was October 2019, 5 months after her diagnosis. To prove that I was there through her entire treatment, here is more evidence. Here is us in January 2020, 2 months later. Again, her allegation is that I abandoned her when she got cancer. So the evidence unmistakably shows I was by her side through the entirety of her treatment, from diagnosis to the very end. I intensely loved her and desperately wanted her to live. When it came time for her bell ringing ceremony, the moment which marks the end of her cancer treatment, she invited one person. Today is Taran's last day of radiation, and we have her bell ceremony. So she's doing...
Did you bring the flowers? No, that one brought the flowers. He gets to ring the bell too once because he was.
Can we do it together?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's kind of weird that he's ringing the bell with her. Like, I just kind of think that's weird. It's like her thing. Like, you know, it's a horrible thing to have to do. It's a positive thing that they're doing the bell, but it's like, okay, she went through the actual treatment. But the fact that she wants him to ring the bell with him is like, what? Like, you said that he abandoned you, but in reality, you both rang the bell together? I was like, damn, this is like incriminating evidence. So bad.
Absolutely.
Hand in hand. Ring the bell.
Okay.
It's your bell ring. You're all just hold on to your arm. It's okay.
Even after her cancer treatment, I continued to be there for her. Here's us in...
So I feel like a little, okay, I do think he's in the right here, but I'm like, okay, you ringing the bell and you making it about you while she's the one going through the actual treatment is a little bit weird also, just a side note.
February 2020. And then again in June 2020, over a year after her initial diagnosis. Today's Father's Day, and I'm in Jackson, Wyoming with Taran. And we're hiking. And by the way, I paid for her cancer treatments. I flew her in a private jet to get the best possible treatments, even when her place got broken into.
Okay, so this is about the break-in. And that's the thing I did hear too, that he has said that, and he said that in the lawsuit rebuttal, I believe, is that he paid for her cancer treatments out of pocket, like the best treatments possible, and flew her on a private jet to be able to get these treatments. It's like, and again, like, that's the right thing to do, but also he's not obligated. That's not his child. It's not even his wife. I mean, I think there is some more legal ramifications if you were to like abandon your wife and you're legally bound. But again, like he was sort of, from my vantage point, doing enough for what their relationship was. Now, what they talked about and what they, you know, said was going to happen or what they were going to get married or whatnot, who's to say? But the official writing wasn't on the wall or on the paper, so you do have to, you know, I don't know. Anyways, so he responded. So she said, you know, something about the break-in, I guess. So he responded to her text messages saying, "The situation is infuriating. People are shitty. I am terribly sorry that this happened to you. You have been putting your best foot forward in life in every possible way, doing everything just right and gaining steam in doing so. And then this happens. It is unfair and an awful violation. I am so very sorry this happened to you. I reached out and spoke with several LA-based private investigators," and then he put links.
She turned to me and I showed up. But then after all that, she began to try and extract money from me. It started out at $150,000 and then it became $1 million and then $9 million. What you're seeing here is just one example. She has made many claims that simply do not align with the facts. This was proven in court twice. I have the evidence to defend my innocence. She's sadly using her true story of cancer to manipulate the public. This is an injustice to real victims. If you're wondering why we broke up, over the 3 years we were together, our relationship decayed. I realized that she just wasn't the right person for me.
And again, he doesn't have to date her or marry her. There is no legal obligation if you date somebody and it's like, oh, she gets a disease. Well, now you're locked in. That's the law. It's like, no, he could break up with her for any reason. Oh, you're ugly now to me. I don't know. Any reason. It's not nice for sure, but it's not illegal and shouldn't be dragged in the public, in my opinion.
And I don't hold that against her. I've shared more details on both X and YouTube. Our reputation is our most precious asset. We work on it every second of every day. We show up on time. We say we're sorry when we're wrong. It's honestly so inhumane for someone to try to destroy someone else's reputation with false allegations. So many of you have gone through the same thing. It's honestly the worst. So to be clear, I am not a monster. I did not abandon my ex when she got cancer. I tried my best to help her. So my ex says,
okay, so that's his side. That was her side. Now, he did mention in the beginning there was like a hit piece going to be written about him in the New York Times. So I was curious about that. And I also think it's true what he said. Yes, it was a not hit piece, but it's like a critical piece about him, about her, like his ex, and but mostly it was about him signing and forcing people, or you know, saying you have, if you're going to work here, you have to sign an NDA, and some of the NDAs being like questionable, and we can go through that a little bit. But this is like a video kind of explaining the investigation. Now, I'm a big also supporter of journalism, like traditional journalism. I'm a subscriber of the New York Times. However, I think they got it wrong with the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case recently. I think they got it real wrong there. And I think they possibly got it wrong here. I need to like read the full investigation, but like what I've found, I'm like, this is weak. I think there's other things you could be investigating, to be honest. Like, I'm all for investigate the company and its practices, and probably that's like all synthetic bullshit, like supplements coming from somewhere and it's overpriced. Yeah, that I think is worth an article. What he wants to do with this whole lawsuit thing, I don't know. It's a little bit beneath the New York Times, I think. But here you go. So this is Kristen Grind, I believe, who's doing this. Okay, so let's see what she has to say.
This year, Netflix released a documentary called Don't Die, The Man Who Wants to Live Forever.
I'm trying to be on the absolute outermost edge of possibility for the science.
Don't Die is actually Bryan Johnson's longtime catchphrase and sort of the name of his brand.
Welcome to the Don't Die Summit.
He's a marketer.
He's developed a huge following and curated this very specific image of himself. But our investigation has found that he's used these confidentiality agreements to silence people around him. In 2021, he founded Blueprint, a pretty small startup, and basically it's selling Bryan Johnson's full life philosophy. It's not atypical at most companies to sign some kind of standard form of NDA. So for example, a company would not want you to post any of its privileged documents, but it's really going into every single corner of what you can or cannot say. There's a section here about Bryan himself and the relationship between Bryan and an employee, Bryan's family, Bryan's relationship with his family, any of Bryan's past, present, or future personal relationships or professional relationships. In another move to to really control his image, Bryan has employees sign what several lawyers have told me is a very unusual agreement. It's called an opt-in agreement. The document is pretty explicit in telling employees the types of behavior that they have to say they're okay with. Bryan will sometimes have no clothing, no underwear. They might be in proximity to discussions for media production, including erotica. They might be involved in discussions that involve adult humor, jokes, ideas, phrases, and art, as well as discussions of sexual activities, including erections, duration issues, and changes in sexual abilities. In at least a couple.
Well, if you applied to work for him and you didn't know that going in, that's a little bit on you. He talks about his erections like constantly on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Like, so I don't know. I guess you can't go to this, interview and go, what? He's not going to wear a shirt? Like, he doesn't wear a shirt in most of his content. Is it okay? I don't know. I wouldn't want to work for this guy for many other reasons, but is this excessive? Yeah, sounds like it, but I don't know. I'm waiting for like the smoking gun.
Couple cases, they seem to go against California state law of what someone is able to ask a worker to do. One person close to Blueprint shared this photo with me of Bryan Johnson in a Zoom.
That's not a good photo. He looks like Groucho Marx. What's going on? He's definitely not blueprinting his eyebrows. He's dyeing it dark black. And it looks like it's processing on his face as we speak. That is weird to have a business meeting doing this. However, again, I think this is on brand for him and should not be shocking to anyone. So just my 2 cents, but oh my God. This guy, like, the thing is, the more you push against something, the more, here's who I'm talking about, in case you don't know who Groucho Marx is. Oh my goodness. Twins, Basil, twins. What was I going to say? Yeah, I just think, what was I going to say about this? I don't know. I just think that if you're going to work for him, this would sort of be expected. Also, I guess he's like warning you about it. It's kind of like Dave Ramsey, saying like, if you don't follow the Lord, like you're not going to enjoy your time here. It's sort of like a disclosure. Is it fair? Once again, I don't know. I guess they're saying it's against the law, which is interesting. But yeah, just interesting take. Interesting investigation. We found a picture with his shirt off. It's like, okay.
Zoom call with no shirt on. And this apparently was a pretty routine situation for employees of Blueprint to deal with. All the legal experts I spoke to said that the growing use of confidentiality agreements is a really disturbing growing trend, because what this does is it aims to silence people. Earlier this year.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, I don't love the trend of doing this, but I think like, I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to hide. If he was like in a porn company, which it sounds like he might be trying to do that, they're filming erotica, I guess, as a side business or at his house, because he runs Blueprint out of his house, I believe. I mean, I guess they're forewarning you. I don't know. So that was the main, hit piece about that. Here's some takeaways from there. So if you watch the Netflix documentary, Oliver Zolman, who is Bryan's longtime longevity doctor who was in the documentary, he left Blueprint last year after having concerns about some of its health supplements. And apparently, according to the New York Times, Bryan said that Blueprint is running out of money, which is shocking. How? He has quite a lot of sales, so it seems, but I guess the cost of marketing it is what's killing him, because I see ads constantly, and specifically about his erectile dysfunction solutions and hair growth. That's the 2 big things that he talks about a lot. Yeah, so they're talking about the opt-ins. One of the things, again, here's the New York Times article. Employees had to attest that they're okay with Bryan wearing little and sometimes no clothing, no underwear, and hearing discussions of sexual activities, including erections. They also had to agree his behavior was not unwelcome, offensive, humiliating, hostile, triggering, unprofessional, or abusive. That part, I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to say, if you sign this document, you're saying that I could never do this? That seems unfair. Okay. Now they're talking about like wider use. And he's also probably, what's the word? He's probably spooked based on how he got taken to court for breaking up with his girlfriend. He's probably spooked and is like, I'm going to prevent this ever happening again. It's like, okay, well, just relax. I think he's an overreactor. I think he found out that, Mormonism was not the truth of life, or he had, thought that himself. Like, he grew up Mormon, and then when he was in his 20s was like, actually, let me think about this for a second, and then decided to swing the pendulum so far to the other side, who he's like, well, if I'm not going to the eternal kingdom with Heavenly Father, then I'm just going to stay on earth, I guess. And so he went the other direction, which, I think now that he's a little spooked about getting in trouble, I think he just overreacts to everything. Okay, so some people at Blueprint allegedly were getting frustrated with the agreements. There were some questions about Blueprint's health supplements. The company sells about a dozen different proprietary supplements, including a $49 longevity mix. At the time, they were doing... Okay, so at the time, Bryan and his leadership team, including the doctor, asked for volunteers to join a study of the supplements called the Blueprint Stack. The goal was to examine the effects of the products on people's health. Okay, so this is like an internal test. Like, we're going to do our own clinical trial, but without the clinic. We're just going to do it ourselves. Okay, so the doctor and some execs wanted to follow standard clinical testing procedures for the study and choose users to test at random. But Bryan had customers pay more than $2,100 to participate. That's kind of crazy. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the clinical trial is paying you to participate, not being you paying to be in it. But I guess he's got such a high profile now that he gets people to like give him money. Okay, so he promised that people would see the results by the summer of 2024. So 1,700 people apparently agreed to that. To pay $2,000. That's crazy. Just give millionaires more money. That's what people, I don't understand people, but I guess whatever. I don't know. 60% experienced. So out of 1,700, 60% of that 1,700 people experienced at least one side effect, according to these internal emails and documents. Blood tests revealed that participants saw their testosterone levels drop and became pre-diabetic after following the diet plan. It's unclear how severe the effects were. Okay, so if you drink that pink juice that looks like a biohazard, neon pink fluid, you're gonna get pre-diabetes. Cool, good. No one would have predicted that. Okay. Okay, so then a lot of so this is an internal document, said a lot of comments about hating this as it is making them sick, vomit, and have heartburn. Cool, sign me up. Allulose is an ingredient in the longevity mix and a sugar alternative that Mr. Johnson, Bryan, has pitched to his social media followers, also caused issues. An employee said tons of people are saying it caused nausea and bloating. Okay, so they say they improved the product. They keep on improving the product. Blah, blah, blah. Dr. Zolman left Blueprint after bringing up concerns from the study. Mr. Johnson did not publish the study's results by the summer of 2024, as he told customers. In January, he released some data for about 300 participants showing positive results. So out of 1,700, they picked out the 300 that had really good results, and he shared those. So, a typical douchebag CEO. Not to be, I'm not shocked. Okay, so, and this is like an internal study, so he lied. Shocking. They all lie. And I'm not trying to forgive him. I'm just saying he's no worse than Dave Asprey. He's no worse than any of these other kooks out there. Okay, now this is the Blueprint financial challenges. While revenue increased last year to about $40 million, which is insane, The company has 40,000 customers. It was falling below its break-even point by at least $1 million a month. How? It's powder. I guess it's the marketing. They're buying Facebook ads and whatever. But like, you're selling like a cheap product. You're making $40 million. You're still losing $1 million a month. Like, hire me. I'll balance your books. I don't lose $1 million a month. That's got to be worth something, right? And I'm just kidding. I know it's more complicated than that, but still. Mr. Johnson had put in $25 million as Blueprint's sole investor. He warned executives that the company was running out of money. Its current finances are unclear. Well, it's still open. It's still operating, allegedly. But he sent an email to recruit, I guess, and more investors and said that Blueprint was already profitable, which could be a lie. He cherry-picked the rosiest metrics of his own health experiments. Shocker. You know, again, like, of course he's doing this. Why would he not? He's a narcissistic businessman. This is how they operate, I guess. I don't know. Okay, not really exciting. Some employees are upset. So this is some more of the allegations. During the work days, Bryan frequently walked around with little clothing on and sometimes flirted with Blueprint's largely female staff. But because of the opt-in agreement, no one felt able to complain. Okay, someone didn't sign the document. Personal boundaries, they were blurred. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not good. Okay, here's some about Taran. So Taran, who's 38, was the former fiance of Bryan and an employee of his brain technology startup Kernel. In February 2020, Bryan fired Ms. Southern from the company after breaking up with her while she had stage 3 breast cancer, according to a 2021 lawsuit filed against him. So maybe, you know, she had cancer, but she was done with the radiation. Then they broke up and he fired her. Little confusing of the timeline. Bryan had pressured her to sign an employment separation agreement with confidentiality terms, the lawsuit said. One version of the confidentiality terms included a $500,000 penalty each time she broke the rules. It's all he seemed to care about. Blueprint employees followed the developments of Miss Southern's lawsuit, in which she contended that Bryan had breached a promise to pay her $150K in exchange for rent and moving out of their home after their breakup. Again, it's like, that's not a bad deal. Take the money and get out of there, girl. But Johnson successfully moved the lawsuit to arbitration. And then the arbitrator ruled that Ms. Southern must adhere to the employment separation, which included terms that said she could not sue. He then countersued for her legal fees, and she was ordered to pay more than $500,000 to him. Then he went to YouTube and posted a 16-minute video saying he was the victim of the dark underground accusation economy. Okay, let's be a little bit more dramatic here. And then I didn't see this, and I don't really care to see it, but I guess Valentine's Day of last year, he sent a 2,400 word post on X naming Taran, saying that he feared she would try to kill him with a pair of scissors and that his health regimen saved her from cancer. Okay, I missed that one. So 4 people close to the couple said that they had never heard of Taran threatening to kill Bryan and that his health regimen did not save her from cancer. But I guess people still harass her on her social media. Mr. Johnson has not paid Taran that $150K. In his YouTube video, Bryan said he would set up a trust so payments from his accuser for his legal fees would go towards her medical expenses. Emails viewed by the Times showed that he opened the trust and then closed it without putting money in. So again, a liar. Okay. Then she filed another complaint against the company Kernel and saying that the confidentiality terms violated a provision of labor law, and she was just complaining. Okay. And that's it. So a little bit of a nothing burger, honestly. Like, I was hoping for a little bit more of a bombshell, but, you know, they did highlight some issues within the company. But I think they should do a wider dive, that he is not alone in this, that this is a wellness industry problem, and he is not the worst one of the people who claim fake stuff, sell supplements unregulated, lie about what it does, hide the facts, you know, show off the data that's all BS, and nothing happens to them. So I think he is definitely a culprit, but also not the only one. Anyways, okay, let's hear from him. I want to hear from this interview, this hot piping tea interview, 7K views. It must be good. It must be amazing. He's going to talk about his new religion and how he is God and is now going to lead the people through the desert, I guess. Okay, here goes. And this is from Leveling Up with Eric. Okay, and then ominously, there's a shadow of Bryan over the shoulder of Eric. If this was a movie, this would represent the devil on your shoulder. Is this man who is claiming to be God? Okay, I see it. I see the symbolism. I love it. Eric, you're enchanting me. I don't think this was intentional, but I'm feeling like I'm seeing signs. Okay, here we go.
I mean, everyone knows you for Don't Die, and I know you from Braintree Venmo fame.
Hello?
An unhealthy meal.
Oops.
Health. Then there's a few.
Why did it skip like that? That was weird.
I did mesenchymal stem cell.
Hello?
In.
Wait, hold on. And also I'm just gonna go to the beginning. The title of this video is The Billionaire. I didn't know he's a billionaire. I don't think he's a billionaire actually. But it says the billionaire trying to live to 200 for $46 a day. And I don't think that's true either.
Body in.
Don't Die, and I know you from Braintree Venmo fame. But I have to ask you, what are some wild things you've been trying this year with your health? Last 12 months.
I did my first gene therapy in October. It was follistatin, and so we've been looking at gene therapy for a couple of years. This was the first time we thought it would be safe, and so we did that. And I did mesenchymal stem cells. We've been also wanting to do that for a couple of years. So yeah, we achieved 2 of the most advanced therapies just recently after a couple of years of doing the research.
Got it. And explain to me, like, I'm 10 years old. Like, what type of gene therapy are you doing? What kind of benefits were you expecting? Same with the stem cells.
Yeah. So if the goal is to keep the body in good.
He claims in the New York Times article that he has the wrinkles of a 10-year-old. I beg to differ. I just want to put that out there.
Health. Then there's a few things you can do. One is you can slow down your speed of aging. And so, for example, when you smoke 2 cigarettes, you lose 30 minutes of life. So that shortens life. You're wanting to do things that extends life. And so by slowing your speed of aging, you can press that lever. And so, for example, eating a healthy meal is better than eating an unhealthy meal. And then exercising is better than non-exercising. And you get all these trade-offs. And each one has a certain power of effect. Gene therapy and mesenchymal stem cells are some of the more powerful therapies. And so what we've tried to do is to say...
Oh my God, hold on. Can we start from the beginning? I need you to see the intro, because this is so boring.
So Bryan, I mean, everyone knows you for...
Is this the right one? I just watched a whole intro. Hold on. This is not the right video.
Did you feel like you...
Hold on. Bryan Johnson. This one.
Or Don't Die, and I know...
Okay, well, I guess it is right. Because here is the thumbnail. I want to create my own religion.
Or I have to ask you, what are some wild things you've been trying this year with your health? Last 12 months.
I can't take it.
I did my first...
This is called Nighttime Boners. I don't care. What's the religion? Where's the religion part? Ugh. Okay, hold on. Stand by. This is horrible. No wonder it has 7,000 views. No offense. My content doesn't make more than 7,000 views, but I try to at least be fun and interesting. Oh, I did a stem cell. I did a stem cell treatment. I'm going to have to end my life and smoke 7 cigarettes. Okay, this is from 3 years ago.
Tell you what.
3 weeks ago from Vice News, which I thought was defunct. I guess they're back. Okay, here you go.
Like, honestly, what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to make Don't Die into the world's most influential ideology.
Are you really trying to live forever?
No.
Living forever and living for tomorrow are identical concepts. The fastest growing ideology in human history.
This year alone, the movement had landed in San Francisco, Singapore, and Miami.
And have something like, 1 million citizens around the world who are like all in.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to start a country, a religion, and a company, which he already has, by the way.
On this philosophy.
I'm hoping that you will learn things that you didn't anticipate learning today.
We have leaders trained all over the world who are organizing local groups. So Don't Die is a religion. Don't Die is an economic system. Don't Die is a political system. Don't Die is an ethical, moral, and social system that, let's say we have something like $1 trillion under management, where people take their savings and they put it into a Don't Die managed fund, where we can move money in markets to actually move towards things that push towards Don't Die. But basically, we're trying to build a nation state and a religion and a social movement in like a 2-year time period.
I get why people have said you're obsessed with Joseph Smith and you want to be your own Joseph Smith. So
it's not Joseph Smith. My competitor is Jesus.
His competitor is Jesus. Okay. I'm glad we found this video. I am into this one. Thank you, Vice News, for coming back from the dead to be here. I don't know if I buy this. Now, Bryan Johnson is a liar. I do believe he's a marketer. He knows how to get people to make videos about him. Okay, that's very evident. He's what's the word when it's like you're doing something to get attention? A stunt. He's like doing these PR stunts. Like him and his son and his dad doing that blood transfusion was a stunt. It was like a wellness center. It did nothing. It was just to show how like, ooh, like this is like visually interesting. He knew it wasn't going to do anything. He doesn't believe, I think, that any of this is real. It's all just to be famous and to be Jesus in his mind. But is he just saying that because he knows it's going to play well and get people to be like, what? He thinks he's Jesus? He thinks he's Joseph Smith? What's wrong with him? To get people to keep talking about him? I don't know. Is he like another, what's her face? Why can't I think of anything today? What's wrong with me? The one that's got the baby Malibu. Not Tana Mojo, her friend that was on Frenemies. Someone help me. Help me. Who is it? What's her face? Oh my gosh. Ethan Klein and... What's her name? Someone tell me. Tell me. Somebody. Trisha Paytas. Oh my God. Okay, thank you. Trisha Paytas. Is he the wellness Trisha Paytas? It could be. Could be. Okay, here we go. Yeah, shock value. Exactly. All right, here we go. Back to this.
all right, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Sherlock Holmes, Hercule Poirot, Chevalier Auguste Dupin, the 3 best detectives ever.
I'm him. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, founder of Vice News. This is starting weird. Thank you. You might be weirder than I starting this podcast this way. All right, dude. Who's competing to be Jesus between these two guys? Because they both have egos, you can tell.
I went down a rabbit hole. I don't like to over-research because it takes away sort of the spontaneity of the conversation. And I did over-research. And as I was over-researching, I was thinking, Sherlock Holmes. Why? Because you get pissed off after a while of Sherlock Holmes goes to the country, and there's the bumpkin police sergeant going, oh, I don't know, Mr. Sherlock.
Okay, Uncle. Go back to your room now. Dinner's over. What is he saying? Get to it.
Look, that seems a bit odd. And you're like, okay, dude. He's been in the newspaper for solving the Queen's murder. Yeah. Like he found the jewels of the king, whatever. Yeah. He's the best detective. Yeah. But yet it's still that sort of, we're going to just ask the same questions. We're going to have the same foil. We're going to have, he's the dumb police sergeant, and that's going to show how smart Sherlock is. Why did I think that? Because everyone asks you the same questions. It's the same interview. And why? Because you're an interesting cat and you're polarizing. So for comments, like on one side, it's incredibly vitriolic. On the other, it's adulation. But I was like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't do the same questions and the same answers because you're a great interview, but you've done that 500 times before. Now, are we going to get to some of them? Yes, we're going to have to. So Bryan Johnson, famous for Don't Die.
As a species, we accept our inevitable decay, decline, and death. I want to argue that the opposite should be true.
And also, you're just sort of like an internet persona.
We're going to talk about the 3 power laws of health.
If anyone can discover the cure to eternal life, it's Bryan Johnson.
This man is spending $2 million a year to reverse aging.
I'm going to go old now. Teethnos.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, you're going to like it.
Okay.
Teethnos was the lover of Eos, who was...
Who the hell is this guy? Take his microphone away. Get the girl with the same glasses that was on Vice before. Get her back in Vice. We need someone who can ask a question that's not convoluted and weird. Toothless. Do you know who that is? Dude, ask me about my erections, please.
The goddess of dawn.
Okay.
Famous in Greek mythology. I remembered it in the periphery of my consciousness when I was thinking about you. And I looked it up. But I remember the actual myth. And the myth is, so Eos was in love with Teethnos. Teethnos was immortal. Eos was a goddess. And...
I remember this now.
So she asks Zeus for everlasting life for her lover, but forgets to ask for everlasting youth.
Yeah.
So he grows older, but doesn't stay young. So he gets smaller and smaller, and he gets sadder and sadder, and he becomes a cicada. And that's why there's so many cicadas in Greece. Cicadas like a grasshopper, but they make that sound, you know. Like all of these things, there's a moral to it, which is be careful what you wish for, which is if you wish for...
Okay, I understand why Vice is not sustainable. They had everything. Vice 2012 was the top of the world in the news industry. Innovation, disrupting, cool, radical, and now I understand why it did not last.
Immortality, there's always unforeseen things that happen, like he becomes a cricket who has to watch his goddess who never dies, and that's him being sad. Thoughts on that? Metaphysical, life, aging, go.
I guess first question for you, as you went down this rabbit hole, what does this look like to you?
He's like, I don't even know how to answer what the hell you just asked because it wasn't a question. So I'm just going to ask you, what does my life look like to you? Because I don't know how to answer what you just asked. And I agree. Bryan, in this moment, I'm on Team Bryan. He just said some crazy stuff in that intro, and I'm still like, you know what? He was just trying to make it interesting.
You know, what I didn't like was interviewers being... like mean or look at this crazy guy. There's a lot of that, you know, which is I think lazy. Look, it's the internet. So there's a lot of
this dude
anger.
Killing me.
And I guess like obviously people don't want to be made to feel stupid, right? And it's like, well, this guy should eat some bacon or whatever, you know, like. So I was surprised, like the sort of people wishing that, you know, oh, well, you know, something's going to happen and then it's all going to be bullshit. Look, I have all those questions too, but to me, it's like I wanted to start with.
He's not a normal reporter. He's a cool reporter, and he wants you to know. He's not like all the other reporters. Okay, we got it, dude. Now ask a question. You haven't asked a question yet. You just told mythological stories.
You know, life, death, aging. Because to me, they're what time immemorial, like, so since the beginning of written language, we've been thinking about this.
That's right.
And you have said this, that it's our sort of number one fascination. So why getting so much for this? I just said 2 swear words. We're gonna have to drop those out. But,
Is this a non-vulgar podcast?
It isn't, but you know what we found?
Yeah.
Is YouTube doesn't like swearing.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I do that.
So
He does know that because he's got millions of followers because he wants to be famous on YouTube. Of course he knows that. You should know that. Did you know that YouTube doesn't like cursing? Yeah. In the first 3 minutes, it's important.
and I have a bit.
Guys, this might be the worst interview I've ever seen. I'm not even kidding. This might be the worst. This is the most two egos in a room at a table. It's been 6 minutes. Get to it, please.
Bit of a potty mouth, especially when
How long have you had a potty mouth? Like your entire life?
Oh,
or?
yeah.
Yeah. Even as a kid?
Yeah.
You just like, you found it and you're like, this is it.
No, I didn't found it. No. My dad is like the Yeats of swearing. But let's get into you started it, so let's get into your youth. So you started. Your dad was a problematic cat.
Yeah, I mean, I really have this complex emotional relationship talking about it because my first conscious memory of existence is being in the bed with him, rubbing his back, because I could feel that he felt bad, and I wanted him to feel good. And so I've had this deep connection to him my entire life. I'm always caring for him, and then he went through quite a few years of intense challenges, and so
addiction.
Yeah, exactly. And it was only just the past couple of years where I actually was able to say openly that he had those challenges. Before I would just try to bury it. Right. So so it's a very complicated, because I'm very proud of my father, but it's hard for me to openly. It
was a difficult childhood. You want your dad to be a regular dad, and your dad is a complex human being.
Yes.
And young people, youth, don't understand complexities very well. They just want the same dad that everybody else has.
Yeah. So I mean, I tell my kids now, like, kids, I am here. Like, you've got a dad that's intensely engaged in your life. So just so you like understand state of affairs, this is like, that's not always the case. Like sometimes the cards in life give you something different. So, you're not wise enough yet to.
He's got a pen in his mouth, the other guy, so he's thinking. He's gonna be like, do you know the America's Most Famous Dad, Mr. Tanner from Full House, or Malcolm in the Middle's dad, the guy from Breaking Bad? And he's just gonna go on for 30 minutes talking about nonsense.
To realize this, but like really lean into this thing. Like if your parents are present, like I'm here to help you, like fully. So yeah, it's been a good experience for me. But then like typically you fall where like a child doesn't have a father, then they over express, and then that child doesn't appreciate it much, and then that kind of goes in these.
Well, can I be honest?
Yeah.
Because when I first heard, so I'm going to give you the synopsis of you, which is
this is what I want.
Yeah, which is a Mormon.
Yeah.
Right. Obsessed with Joseph Smith. And Mormon church, then leaves the church, becomes this sort of, anti-aging is the new religion, becomes obsessed by it, makes some money being an entrepreneur, and spends the money now on this anti-aging stuff, right? So here, we haven't even gone. I'm going to go for my first question.
All right.
So speaking of that, ambition, longevity, all tied up into one, is in an article from December of 2023, you told Vanity Fair you might be interested in running for president, and then tweeted, and I quote, "We need more nighttime erections in Washington, D.C. Too much stress, sleep deprivation, and bad habits have made us flaccid. I'm ready to present my nighttime erection results if called upon. Go."
Go what? That's not a question.
Yeah, it's really, I guess I'm making some meta societal commentary that we live in this culture. Like we basically you are your surroundings and you're oblivious to it. None of us can really see it very clearly, and I'm highlighting that the majority of Congress is poorly slept, poorly nutritious, poor nutrition, doesn't exercise much, and is
Oops. Sorry, hold on. Tiro! Say hi. Say meow. Say meow. No, she's like, I don't command. Wait, why can't I watch this? What's going on? Why can't I watch? Is it black for you too? What the hell? This has disappeared on me, and I usually can just go back. What the heck's going on? Where did this stream go? Taro, did you do magic on it? Why did you do magic? Oh. Okay. It was Taro. You did magic. I'm so sorry. Okay, back to it. Sorry.
Results if called upon. Go.
Skip ahead.
Comically, of Congress is poorly slept, poorly nutritious, poor nutrition, doesn't exercise much, and is getting aged, and that that's a combination that produces challenges in good decision making about them leading the country. So if we want to be a strong country, if we want to lead the world and we want to be vigorous, then I think it's reasonable that our leaders would be that. They would be the thing we want them to bring about into the world. And so I was commenting that perhaps there's some introspection that would be beneficial of we want to be that thing ourselves.
So basically you're using your penis as a parable for being, well rested, best nutrients, well rested. Your brain is clear. You don't have brain plaque.
Yeah. I'll give.
He makes Bryan look like a nice, down-to-earth guy. Thanks, Arian Bates. Arian Bates says, for Taro's treat fund, long live all the cats. You got a treat fund. Got a treat. Yay! Okay, for that I say...
If I were to die, it would probably be choking on broccoli.
I also say...
It's not $5,000. It's not $2,000. It's not $10,000. It's a lot of money.
Don't leave. Thanks, Arian. And the final... Oh, bye. The final thing I have to say is this.
I'm going to stomp you.
Just so you know. Okay, back to it.
Give you maybe the layers of this. So I was in San Francisco last week. I was with some of the more powerful people in that world.
Yeah.
And one of them turned to me and they said, I've been casually following your stuff for years.
Yeah.
The thing that got me, nighttime erections. And I was like, because I've always wondered, is it lowbrow? Is it crass? I've always tried to find my own disposition towards it, because I'm not a person that, I don't normally play in that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it really hit, and what we found is nighttime erections, nobody talked about these things before I started talking about it.
Sure.
And what they are is they're one of the most important biomarkers you can have as a human. You can measure your cholesterol.
For blood pressure, or
it's cardiovascular, it's physiological, it's psychological.
Wow.
And so you can say how big.
So what about women? What's our biomarker? Okay.
Your muscles. You can say, are you fat? Are you skinny? Do you have you have bad cholesterol? Do you have good cholesterol? You can make these general statements, but nighttime erections, both male and female, is one of the most powerful markers for a person's overall health.
Sure.
And if a man doesn't have...
What does a female erection look like? Do I want to know? I mean, yes, I do want to know. Does anyone know? Does my belly button raise up? Okay, sorry.
Of man and woman. It's easier to measure men than women.
Yeah.
But men who don't have nighttime erections are 70% more likely to have a premature death.
Wow.
And so it's a big deal. But it really captures culture in a way that's unique.
Well, you just scared the piss out of me. But yeah, I mean, you remember them.
Big deal.
When you're 15 or, when you're sexual prime and
you remember them when you're 15? Excuse me.
You ride the bus and you wake up every minute. As you get older, that stops, but or it doesn't have to.
So when my kids were going to school when they were younger, when they would leave the door, I would say, be sure, trip kids at school, knock their books out of their hands, say rude things, and they would have
sounds like my dad.
They'd be like, Dad, I know, but the point was, if I told them be kind, be considerate, help people, it just goes in one ear out the other. They don't hear it.
Right.
And so it's when a speed limit is 15 miles per hour, you don't pay attention. If it's 17, you're it's 17.
Yeah.
So you have to structure information so it lodges. And so I always played the inverse with my kids, like the exact opposite. And they always thought it was such a fun game. And so boners are kind of like that, where if you say be fit or exercise, like, yeah, I've heard it, but you talk about that, and now it creates this new opening of this conversation. And so if you talk about what do we want in a political leader, you have 10 to 20 to 30 words we use all the time. Yeah, whatever. You talk about them being flaccid, I get it. And so it's really, this entire thing has been,
I'm not just making a crash joke. I'm a genius. Okay.
How to use language and medical terminology and these biomarker approaches to actually have a conversation about the future of being.
Brain to say other people.
Sorry. It's not that deep. It ain't that deep. I'm sorry. I don't think it's that deep. But okay.
You have 10 to 20 to 30 words we use all the time. Yeah.
This brings us into the realm of, sadly, questions that have been done by other people and other things that you've...
Whatever you ask, I will give you something entirely novel.
There we go. I like it. So you've sort of touched on it a little bit, that you, whenever anyone asks you something or brings up something, you're like, well, you're very data driven. You like data for yourself, and if
I like data, but I cherry pick it to share to make it match my life philosophy. Yeah, we know that.
If there's something you don't know, you're like, show me the data. Your ear is like 61 or 64 years old because you used to shoot guns, but your heart is this and your lungs are this. How do you how do we test for that, and how do we make sure that those tests are reliable?
Yeah.
Because
drink my
when
powder.
I say political science and you have to study stats, and one of the things they teach you is you can make a stat say anything.
Yeah.
Like figure out the narrative first and then insert the stat. So how do you know that it's real?
Like if we start at the...
You don't, because he's also trying to sell you stuff, so he doesn't care. He has the same motive. Okay, that's the answer.
Edge of the spectrum. We say if we have a 2-year-old next to a 90-year-old, and we ask 100 people which person's 2 and which one's 90, you get a very clear conclusion that you can determine biological age when you contrast a 2-year-old versus a 90-year-old. And then if you do that same thing and you close in from a 3-year-old to a 79-year-old, right, and you keep on coming in, at some point, the difference between a 43-year-old and a 44-year-old, you can't quite tell. So there.
Who has all these banks of data of age? Like, where do you get them?
So sometimes it's governmental databases, sometimes it's researchers. And so you can basically just say, like the 2-year-old heart is different than the 80-year-old heart. They have different cellular structures, they have different plaques, so you can basically tease out what are the characteristics of age. Like what does the skin of a 2-year-old look like versus 90? 90s, it's wrinkly and it's sagging. Wow.
It's wrinkly, yeah. Okay, so what he's saying is the way he compares his biological age and which he's 45 in Earth years, but in biological age he's actually 27. It's all BS. It's a stat that he's inserted into his marketing plan is what I actually am hearing from this, and he's trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, well you can look at someone's skin and see it's different if it's 2 or 90. It's like, yeah. Okay.
And so you can tease out those molecular characteristics. And so what we've done is we've said, from a molecular perspective in the body, you can tell if a body is 2 years old or 20 years old or 80 years old, and you can do so with all these different markers. So what we've done is we basically tried, so I'm a collection of 35 trillion cells. We've tried to probe my 35 trillion cells and say, how old are you? In your structure, in your function. And then we said, okay, now how do we make you younger, and how do we make you slow down the speed of aging, where damage naturally occurs? And so that's what's really been, I think, that the change here is that you can find out a biological age and then change that, but you have to start from a molecular perspective.
Okay, but how do I believe that it's true?
Yeah,
lie to yourself.
Because you've said I want to do aging Olympics, and once we get a series of criteria, but then there has to be the data has to be the same for everybody. And
No, they will just lie and manipulate it. Duh.
And all that stuff. So
and that's why I start with the obvious example, because there's no dispute that who's 2 and who's 80. Do we agree with that?
Sure.
A 2-year-old, their brain and heart and skin, it's all different than an 80-year-old. So if you start at the extreme.
But you're saying like, well, how do you see that on a piece of paper? If you look at a 2-year-old and an 80-year-old, yeah, you can see that they're different, but you don't have these people in front of you. You're going to have like a chart of your EKG. Can you tell a 2-year-old from an 80-year-old? He's not answering the question because I don't think it's true. I don't think the data exists.
But your markers, they're, those are the same for all 2-year-olds and all 9-year-olds,
No,
et cetera,
of
et
course
cetera.
not.
Well, that's exactly the question.
Right.
Generally speaking, I've never seen a baby with saggy skin or wrinkles. So you can start teasing out what things.
And how does that, what marker is that? Saggy skin, but you can get Botox at 100 and not have saggy skin. So, okay, now your whole experiment's fucked.
Are obvious, and then you get into more things that are more narrow and non-obvious, and you just work down from obvious to non-obvious. And that's what we've done. And so some data sets are very easy. Like, for example, generally speaking, your heart rate is max heart rate is 220 beats per minute minus your age. So if you're 20 years old, your max heart rate should be 200. If you're 30 years old, your max heart rate should be 190. Now, there's some variation, but generally speaking, you drop 220 minus your age as you get older. And so that data is pretty consistent over a lot of humans. Like generally, that model works. You can take the same model and you can do on almost anything else. Like, what are your levels of NAD? Like, over time, there's a decline curve. What about your eyesight? Over time, there's a decline curve. And so there's good enough models in the world where you can see age-related decline according to all variables in the body. And so a lot of people begin aging, like your thymus begins aging, I believe, at age 13. So it begins really early. But you see in certain parts in people's lives, like in a person's like late 20s, early 30s, there's like a kind of a big change, right?
40, I heard, weird evolutionary experiment, and it stops at 40. Your brain stops creating brain cells at 40. Your body starts deteriorating at 40.
Yeah.
40 is what I would heard.
Yeah, so I did this research the other day of how much do you die on a daily basis? And so the response. So like it.
So he did research, aka he typed into an AI bot and said, how much do I die on a daily basis? And it spit out some answer from Google.
You can, like, your brain, if I'm not mistaken, after the age of 25, your brain shrinks every year thereafter. And so you can then put it on a per day calculation.
Did you know that Sherlock Holmes is the best detective? Have you thought about that?
Of how much. You can say how much do your telomeres, the end caps of your chromosomes, how much do they shorten. So you can actually do the math on a per day basis, how much entropy is happening inside your body. So that's what we've done. We've gone to like the ultimate degree of figuring out like what does entropy do to your body on a daily basis.
Okay, speaking as a personal aside, what have you found about brain entropy, and how do we stop it?
Yeah. So I guess recent stuff there is I just completed 60 sessions doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So I sit in a chamber, looks like an alien box. Yeah. And then I get 100% oxygen. I breathe that for 20 minutes and I go off for 5 minutes and I cycle on and off. And it's in 2 atmospheres. So it's roughly 30 meters below the ocean of pressure. I do that. So I did 60 sessions of 90 minutes each. And
if you were to do that at a place, first of all, it could explode, which recently killed a child. Its mother was trying to like heal him from something, which is a terrible tragedy, obviously. So if the hyperbaric chamber doesn't explode, then okay. But the same thing is like, there is like no, as far as I know, research to be like, oh yeah, this is helping you in anything except for if you're like a scuba diver. That's like the only thing I've heard that like if you have the bends or whatever to prevent it. That like people use it for like marathon recovery, and unfortunately a lot of people are now using it for like cancer. Cancer can survive in oxygen, even though that's not okay, it's in your body, it's not in the air. Anyways, I have not seen the studies that prove that hyperbaric chambers, they're very expensive as well, do anything really, but I could be wrong. But okay, also this is a very rich person's experiment because it's pricey. It's like buying a cold plunge for like, $4,000. It's like, yeah, okay, if it does work, it's probably because you're a rich person who has access to healthier foods, a better gym, a career and a more stable life than someone who doesn't have $4,000. And that's actually more of a marker of health versus like going in the actual, can you afford a cold plunge will tell you if you're healthier or not. Does that make sense? Okay. Anyways.
And we saw significant improvements in my brain.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there are things you can do to naturally offset, like for example.
And what does an improvement in your brain look like? What does that look like? How do you say that? Improvement in your brain? Is it anecdotal evidence? Is it a scan that was filled with holes and now is full? Improvements in my brain doesn't mean anything to me.
Like one of the measures.
Sorry, where is that a service that somebody offers, or you built your own, or
I put it in my home.
Right.
Because otherwise, if I do so many things.
Right.
I wouldn't have time, so I just put it in the garage.
And how do you buy a hyperbaric chamber?
Online?
Yeah, I've worked with a company out of Turkey to do this. It's hard shell. So typically you see like these like little tubes where you go in there, you lay down, but they only get like 1.2 atmospheres, so it's not enough. You need 2 atmospheres to hit the spec on the protocol.
You get a little bit high from the oxygen.
You could hotbox it for sure. I mean,
no, from the oxygen.
No. I mean, when you first start,
because when I get pure oxygen, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like maybe when I first.
When are you getting pure oxygen? In what setting are you doing that?
Started maybe a little bit, but now I don't. Yeah. But that had so we're going to publish our results next week.
Oh, awesome.
Had a huge impact on my brain.
Wow.
Yeah. So like for example, p-tau, which is one of these proteins you don't want for Alzheimer's.
Right.
It dropped it by something like 80%.
No.
Just crushed it. So yeah.
So if you can prove, because I've invested in a couple of pharmaceutical companies that are trying to find the cure or slow down Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
If you can prove that your Turkish-made hyperbaric chamber works, that's huge.
You'll see the markers we show.
First of all, that's not how it works. Second of all, so you're going to give every person who potentially could have Alzheimer's a probably $10,000 to $20,000 plus machine that they have to use every hour for 60 days straight or something. It's like, okay, yeah, give everyone an iron lung. It's not reasonable. So, and it's also one person's experience that, again, is cherry picking the data. This is not revolutionizing Alzheimer's. And this guy's an idiot for even suggesting that this is real.
Inflammation, we show blood vessel growth, we show cardiovascular improvement. It's probably one of the most effective.
It's one man's story, and take my word for it, bro, who has incentive to sell you stuff for longevity. So yeah, don't trust him.
Therapies we've ever done.
Well, that's fascinating. So to go back to everything, I find it fascinating. All of this stuff is fascinating, and I want to go through it one by one.
It's marketing.
I think the main one, and it's a natural springboard into what we're talking about, because people get older.
Yeah.
Right. Yet.
Yeah.
Now.
Except for you.
And I agree with you that we're on the sort of inflection point of health and wellness and,
No, we're not.
tech and when I want to get into AI, obviously it's the big thing. But I want to walk before we run. But when you get into it, the first thing that anyone will say, or a lot of people will say, is, okay, fine, we have better medical science now. People are living longer, but dementia's gone through the roof because our brains, like I said at 40, you said at 25, which is even more depressing, can't keep pace with modern science. And so that's why we have Ronald Reagan, Joe Biden, and everybody that we know and who's older. So how, if you're going to save your body or make your body younger, then
that's why we have Ronald Reagan. Huh? You lost me, dude.
How do you save your brain? I guess this is one of them, but overall as a question,
in a jar.
Isn't that a problem with aging?
Yeah, it is. So what we've done is, going back to the calculation of how much do you die every single day.
Yeah.
We've basically said, how do you slow down that speed of death?
Yeah.
And so if you say the average life expectancy is 77 years old, take that, divide it by the number of days, and there you have your number. And so we have successfully slowed down my speed of aging to almost half.
Wow.
So my birthday is now every 21 months. And so
all you have to do is spend your entire life dedicated to staying alive. Every waking moment has to be some sort of protocol, some sort of experiment, some sort of health regimen. That's all you have to do. And then it also costs $2 million plus a year. That's it. It's for everybody. I've changed humanity. Okay. Just so we're on the same page again. And what he's claiming, I don't even believe it's true, but also it's unattainable for every other person other than like Elon Musk at this point. Okay, great. Thank you.
That's how you do it. So like when you have this Alzheimer's protein accumulating in your brain, where if it gets to a certain threshold, it tips. If you can stop that from accumulating, you're in a good situation. If you can stop your telomeres from losing their end caps, you can stop, blood vessels from, retreating. So that's what we're trying to do, is like slow down all these inevitable processes, and then like reverse the damage we've done. But that's what we've tried to, like, it's a brand new paradigm, because some people naturally like, oh, my aunt drinks, a cup of whiskey a day and smokes, and she lived to like 119. They're confusing that she won the genetic lottery versus like her lifestyle did that thing. And so we're trying to train people up on the idea that you do have control.
I think people know it's not the cigarettes and Dr. Pepper that kept her alive, but maybe it did. Maybe that was what made her happy, and happiness will keep you living a lot longer. And also, it's like if you hit the genetic lottery, then what's the point of doing anything then? What's the point of doing these protocols, these insane protocols?
Over how fast or how slow you age, and how fast you increase your likelihood of disease or stay away from it.
Yeah, I think I guess you get this all the time, but I mean, the grandparent, like World War II, sort of greatest generation, everyone smoked filterless cigarettes, everyone drank. Everyone had like an arrowhead in their knee or like a bullet in their elbow, whatever. And they lived like my grandmother. I had one grandmother lived till she was 101, and I had another grandmother lived till she was.
How old are you? You're going back to like the 1700s with that analogy. What?
98, and the only one was a drinker. Drank every day, smoked every day. One never drank. The only correlation that anyone could, neither of them had a job, so like there's no stress of that kind there anyway, and so I was like, okay, stress is a killer, therefore but that's my rudimentary put my toes in the pool. But all these people lived till they're super old and did all that we weren't supposed to be doing.
I mean, so there's like it's such a big question, because if we take a category of dye, let's just say there's a dye input. That dye may be cigarettes, it may be alcohol, it may be our environmental toxins, it may be stress. And if you just simply say, how bad are those sources of dye? And so if we're comparing their generation or our generation, it's not clear which one has it worse. I mean, like if you look at the toxins we consume on a daily basis in everything, in our water, in the air we breathe, in the food we consume, like we may have it worse than them. And so these questions are so complicated. So. And so what we've been trying to do is to say, okay,
that's a hard thing. They always say that, like, well, people like paleo, back when the cavemen were living good, they didn't have cancer. It's like, yeah, because they died at 30. They didn't have a chance to develop cancer. They didn't have dementia, yeah, because they weren't living to 100. They were living to like 30 and being eaten by bears and stuff. So a lot of these comparisons are unfair. Now, with clean energy and runoff water and, toxic waste and all that is a huge problem. That is a big problem. Microplastics, all of that stuff. It is worse now than it was back then. That is true. However, as many things change, like sanitation has improved, and that has fixed the world, and medicines have gotten better. Yes, this other part has gotten worse, but I think it balances out. So we're probably either doing the same, if you look at it that way, or better still.
Okay, let's just take all variables of potential dye. Every single thing that increases the death of my body, I want to isolate, and I want to figure out how much is it contributing to my dye, and then I want to try to offset it. And so we've tried to take this really rigorous approach of making a very clean distinction what causes the body to die. Yeah, and so I mean this is why it's hard to reason through these things, because someone could easily say, well, my parents did blank, therefore. Yes. But which is what people do. Totally. Which is, like, you really can't have a structured argument, like a conversation like that.
Okay, but what you're doing is, I did this, so you. So don't look at your parents and what they did, but look at me and my data to show you what to do. One rando guy. okay, it's the same exact premise.
So speaking of which, I'm sure you know this, and you're going to have an answer for it, but this doctor says that what you're doing is not scientific approach because there's too many. You have hundreds of interventions.
He claims that he's doing this to sort of help the process along, but of course he's trying all sorts of things in one individual. That is not the way you would do a scientific experiment.
So it's impossible to tell which ones are working.
Yes.
So I'm sure you're familiar with that. But as we're talking about all of these or like all of these data points, et cetera, how do you know
you don't
what's working, what's not? For example, because now I've taken a personal interest, is how do you know it's the hyperbaric chamber that's helping your Alzheimer's brain function versus stem therapy, gene therapy, blueberries, whatever it is?
Yeah, we isolate therapies. So I'm the most measured person in history. So we have.
And sorry, I don't want to keep stopping because I want you
That's a PR sentence too. Don't die is a marketing term. I'm the most studied person in history is a marketing term. Who cares? And you're probably not, because people are on literal machines that are like in the hospital right now in a vegetative state that are on. They're being monitored more than you have ever been monitored. So like that's untrue. Now, depending on how you say, like, well, I did a hyperbaric chamber and then a doctor looked at me. Okay, that might be different, but who cares? Like, that doesn't mean that it's more valuable to anybody.
But how do they measure you? Like blood testing?
Yeah.
Get into the...
Every test that we can find to measure me, we do. So easy ones like blood.
I hate blood tests.
It's tough, right?
How many do you get one a day?
Through the vein, like once every couple weeks. And then the fingers, I do it like almost daily.
Yeah.
Getting finger prick cards. Then we do, I do saliva, stool. I do MRIs, ultrasound. We do fitness tests.
MRIs all the time,
mitochondrial
right?
tests. Like we just do hundreds of tests. Like I measure my semen. Like we measure everything. Microplastics in my blood, microplastics in my semen.
Who doesn't though?
I have a lot. So I have a lot of microplastics in my testicles.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So that comes from water, or?
Yeah, this is the thing where
he jerks off into plastic Ziploc bags, probably. Just gets a little stuck in there. Okay, sorry. All right.
We do that, and we chase down water supply. Like, what does the water have?
Not just you. We're assuming that a lot of modern men have microplastics.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is leading to, because it's people don't know, but we have filters down there, so that filters out our sperm.
Yes.
And women have them in their breasts, so it's leading to prostate cancer #1 for men, breast cancer #1 for women.
50% more in our brains than we had a decade ago. So the accumulation is very, very high. And so we're trying to isolate all of these variables. And so when scientists criticize me of not being scientific, fine, like whatever. What I'm doing, right, is I'm introducing the concept that we know, for example, that being overweight is not good for life expectancy.
Sure, that's me.
That's
everyone I know.
That's like not disputed a lot. Like you could have you can find outliers where people are obese and live long because they've got certain genes or whatever. Sure. But generally speaking, and so starting that principle, then you can start walking back. What is the biomarker for proper body mass index? What is the appropriate level for blood glucose levels so you don't have a spike? What is appropriate levels for cholesterol? So you can we know a lot. And so when they take me and they're like, they just push away, but they don't. And it's really weird because they really should say what Bryan is doing is really a good example of scientific measurement, right? Doing this stuff. Now, whether you can conclude like a population level study, we can't do that. But he's introducing the concept that measuring things is really good.
He's the first person to ever measure. Everyone in the kitchen has just been throwing salt into dishes since the beginning, until Bryan came around in 2018 or whenever he showed up on the scene. I didn't know how to bake a cake. Cakes were not baked before Bryan showed up to tell us that measuring things is good. Now, he agrees that it's not scientific, but he's the first person to ever propose that, hey, have you checked your levels to see if you're healthy? Wow, he's a savant.
Right. Referencing scientific data is really good. And so it confuses people because they're like, oh, it's not scientific valid. So what is it then? Is it woo science? So it's really, I think that The scientist
It's
should be
one man's experience that he is choosing to share what he wants with you. So it's biased at the least, and it's manipulated at the worst.
be much more articulate and say, what I do like here is measurement is amazing.
Right.
Science begins with counting. And
Right.
so I'm measuring everything. So that's going back to your question. So I measure everything.
Yeah.
Then we isolate a therapy and we say, what happens to these biomarkers when I, my baseline, and then when I do the therapy and we measure afterwards, and then we say, what happened? And so we do this continually through all these different therapies. And so it's not double placebo, it's like not controlled. So there's variability, and that's fine. We're trying to our very best in these narrow circumstances. So it still is informative.
Look, fascinating.
It's not,
and I think,
okay.
hold on,
For
I'm
you,
going to
it's
double check, but
informative.
I think that the same doctor said it's not scientific, but that it's good that you're doing it because it brings attention to the field.
Is
that what he said? It's good, no? We got some good with the bad?
It's good. It's like, I think the anti-aging scientists have been very stingy. They view themselves as the righteous carriers of the field going forward.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't do it the way they do. And so I think they really, the move for them, they don't have
Well, what, to benefit the whole versus one man who's a rich... He wants people to worship him, one rich man. Okay, that seems to be a theory that a lot of people have nowadays for some reason. And doctors tend to be, I think, people who go, okay, this needs to benefit all of us, or at least a large pool of people versus one person at a time. Now, you can argue whether, which one's better, but I would think that, at least the majority of the time, a community approach is the better approach for science, at least. But, what do I know? Brokey here.
these good intuitions on like social media. They really should have leaned into it and said yes and, right? Like, we like what he's doing, and let us tell you how we're going to complement what he's doing with our stuff. And instead, they said no but. And no but always loses.
Right.
Always. And so they just don't have right intuitions on social media landscape, and the no but just kind of kills it.
Yeah.
They should just lean into it.
So let's get down to
the religion.
Some of the controversial stuff. See, my problem is, to go back to my problem with everything, is I'll go to my weird, anything you put in your body is going to have a repercussion that is hitherto unknown, right? So anything you ingest, anything, and it could be stuff you don't know. It could be microplastics, could be heavy metals, all this crap, could be from the air or whatever. And so therefore, anything you ingest, any drug, anything you take. So I don't like to take pretty much anything. If you take antibiotics, it kills your probiotics, and it's like napalm for your biome and all this stuff. So you're taking a lot of stuff, and it reminds me of one story, which I'll keep quick, but I think I don't want you to go to town after this one, is finasteride.
Yeah, finasteride?
Finasteride.
Yeah.
Propecia.
Yeah.
So I had a doctor, and I wasn't even losing my hair, but he was saying, my buddy was losing his hair, so he took Propecia for years and years and years. And but he said, look, if you take a tiny little amount of this stuff, you won't get prostate cancer. And not all, but if you live a long life, you're going to probably get prostate cancer. So this, you just take it, you won't get prostate cancer. So just do it proactively, right? Pretty good pitch. So he gave me they're tiny little pills, and he gave me a pill cutter.
Yeah.
And I traveled a lot. I was doing a news show and whatever, and so I was taking the pills, and I just couldn't get into cutting them and whatever. So I took her, 3 weeks, and then I couldn't be arsed. Post-finasteride syndrome is like suicidal thoughts. Your penis doesn't work. Speaking of erections, it shrinks. So you're taking this for your hair loss to try theoretically because you want to get girlfriends. You get girlfriends and your penis doesn't work, and it
shrinks.
You're feeling suicidal.
Which is worse,
So then the reason why I know about it is because they had to send me the literature on it because I had been prescribed the drug. Thank God I didn't take it. My buddy who took it, by the way, for his hair didn't have any, or at least it doesn't say he had any. So that's the problem. You're going to get is you're taking so many things. How do you know? And one of them is, for example, rapamycin.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you hear this all the time. I'm a layman. You're taking a lot of stuff. What if they have unforeseen?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people start with the assumption that I'm at greater risk than they are because they assume I do a lot of experimentation.
Sure.
And what I try to explain to them is they do as much experimentation as I do.
You just said you're the most measured person in history. That's not experimentation? So what? Oh, okay.
It's just uncontrolled. So when they ate the burger and fries for lunch, that's an experimentation.
Cocaine.
But cocaine, exactly.
We're experimenting all the time with it.
So I argue that I'm a lower risk experimenter than someone else because I'm measuring everything.
Yeah.
So for every drug I take, I'm not supplements, not foods, everything I do, we have extensive analysis on the profile.
Right.
Like what is the intended effects? What are the side effects? And so I've never taken finasteride for that reason.
Wow.
Is we know the side effect profile. We know the numbers. We've seen the clinical studies and the data. Like, I would never touch it.
Yeah.
It's way too risky. For the yield, for that trade-off is not worth it.
But you have this, I think it's an immune suppressor.
Yeah, so rapamycin, So rapamycin is, I took it for several years. It's one of the most promising drugs in anti-aging. So if you ask anti-aging scientists, what are you most excited about? Rapamycin would probably be number one.
Wow.
And so it has a lot of, the evidence behind it's really good.
But why? What's the...
that basically has anti-aging effects. Like it has, it's a unique molecule.
But sorry, when I say why, I mean like, is it because it depresses our immune system and our immune system ages us or something?
Oh, it's working on the mTOR pathway. So it's like there's details.
Talk about being Jesus. Talk about that. Can we skip? I'm sorry. I'm so bored.
Yeah, but let him do what he wants. Like, I told you so. I hate
so
it.
people were like, lol, right? Like it was a banger across social media. People were like, we love the don't die guy dying.
Yeah.
And then other people were like, you guys don't understand. This is science, right? You want to try stuff. You want to publish the results, whether they're positive or negative. You want to publish those.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, fine, like all of it's fine. It also pretends that I am going to die in a very ironic, me in particular, in an ironic way.
Right.
So that's fine.
Well, you're just going to have a much longer obituary. Because we're all going to die. I mean, unless you've found some stuff, we're not going to die, but we're all going to die. You're going to die theoretically a lot later than the rest of us and have a lot more healthy existence during that extra time.
Yeah, so Shane, I'm serious for a minute for this. I don't think that it's clear that we're going to die.
So that's great.
Like, legit.
I do, but I don't know as much about it as you do.
Yeah.
I've got another question for you. Okay, first I want to delve into that because that's a huge statement. And by the way, it's a huge statement, and I don't take statements lightly. A huge statement by a guy who's spent a lot more time than I have researching and doing it, and by the way, using his own body as a guinea pig. So I want to get into that. But is there a shortcut? And the reason why I ask is other people in Silicon Valley, it's a different thing, but it relates, is interstellar travel. And they were saying, well, we're not going to get in a spaceship and go.
Yeah.
We're going to download our consciousness into an AI or whatever and send it by laser into a clone of us or of someone else that lives over there. And then you're in the new...
When did we talk about this? I missed this news report.
Fleshy vessel, and then you go. So if you can download your consciousness, which they're already working on, into an AI or whatever, and then you can have a perfect body, why do I take 75 supplements?
Yeah. I mean, we may get there, right? We don't know.
Because we're not there yet, and you're a human, and you're
exactly. You need to buy yourself time. Like, you need to be around to understand what I'm trying to do. Like, imagine if you're off and then you're turned on, and all of a sudden you have consciousness, and you don't know anything, like nothing. Like, as an adult, you wake up and it's like, okay, what do I do now?
Survive. How do I live?
Like, just like your very first impulse, your very first thought. Like, what do you do?
What do I do with this boner? Shut up. No, I'm
just at the absolute essence, like ground zero epicenter of you wake up and you're conscious. What?
Take
what do you think about?
Supplements.
What do you do? What do you prioritize? What do you want? And that's what I'm trying to say is, this moment is like an on button, an on switch. We just turned on our path to superintelligence, and it's push towards don't die. But basically, we're trying to build a nation state and a religion and a social.
Finally. Okay, sorry, we found it now. We have to watch this clip.
It's like I'll tell you, like, honestly, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to make don't die into the world's most influential ideology by 2027. So 2 years time.
Fast.
Exactly.
Good luck.
The fastest growing ideology in human history.
Wow.
And have something like, 1 million citizens around the world who are like all in on this philosophy.
1 million citizens is not gonna cut it. There's other ideologies that have much more than 1 million citizens. Okay.
We have basically leaders trained all over the world who are organizing local groups. So don't die is a religion. Don't die is an economic system. Don't die is a political system. Don't die is an ethical, moral, and social system that we have. Let's say we have something like $1 trillion under management where people take their...
This is a Ponzi scheme is what he's trying to do, it sounds like. Okay, so this is the next step in the grift is get popularity, get 1 million suckers, start a crypto coin, and give all your life savings to Bryan, who's gonna longevity your ROI. He's gonna 10x it, I guess.
Savings, and they put it into a don't die managed fund where we can move money in markets to actually move towards things that push towards don't die. But basically, we're trying to build a nation state and a religion and a social movement in like a 2-year time period to basically track with the progress of AI so that we have a guiding light on what we do as a species in this moment. That's the goal.
I mean, it's ambitious, obviously. I get why people have said you're obsessed with Joseph Smith and you want to be your own Joseph Smith. So that I didn't understand before. And
actually, it's not Joseph Smith. My competitor is Jesus. People will hear this and be like, oh my God, like he's lost his mind, right?
God,
but like if you just say who has played Don't Die,
right?
Like Jesus delivered a Don't Die message. Sure. He said, here's the story, do these things, and you don't die. You get afterlife, right?
Yeah.
And so there's been so many pitches on do this, don't die. And so basically the question is, in the age, like what is salvation?
Yeah. If you don't die, then you're going to be pretty, I don't know if you're going to.
Isn't Jesus dying the entire thing? Isn't that the entire religion? Jesus dying for our sins? So Jesus said, actually, no, my message was reverse that. I never died for nobody.
Jesus, you're going to be up
so
there.
it's not that I am. It's this.
You're going to be Jesus.
This ideology. Isn't this ideology? That basically this movement that we are all part of. Yeah. We are our own salvation. Mm-hmm. And so that's the goal. It's not a one-man person. It's not like. Yeah. So it's. Yeah.
It's also look. I don't know. Maybe you shoot for the moon and you hit the stars. But look, if you don't die. Like if you win this thing, because there's a lot of naysayers who are going to be like, well, he's going to die, and then when he dies, that's what I was being pithy about. You're going to have a better obituary than me. But look, if you don't die, then people are going to sign up in droves, obviously, because they don't want to die. Yeah. And so...
Yeah, maybe when he turns 200, I'll get on board. I don't think I'll be around at that time. But yeah, if he hits those 110, he's looking good. Yeah, okay, maybe. Sign me up.
Having a
Until
fund
then,
or
he's a 45-year-old guy who's rich. Been there, done that,
capital markets or political entities, it's not so crazy. It's crazy to think that it's going to happen in 2 years. Maybe in 30 years when you don't die and everybody else is dead and you're sitting there going, here I am. Yeah. And they'll be like, give me the rapamycin. Let's go. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, look, if anybody in the world, I think, just said, I've done it through meditation, I've done it through AI, I've done it through science, I've done it through not pooing, I've done it through whatever it is, and said this is the way to do it. Not also pooing? People like, I think, to be told like, this is the way you do it this way, and then this is the way to, and if you said like, here are the steps, here are the 10 steps, and if you do these, you don't die. I mean, you'd be up there.
Yeah.
That's like every cult leader says, I have the secrets to not dying. We're going to put our Nikes on and shoot ourselves in the head, and then we're going to go on the spaceship. That's a thing. We're going to take this Kool-Aid and we're going to have eternal life. Like, this is nothing new. This is just a new updated, high-tech Silicon Valley version of the same thing, that when you have a narcissistic personality that you want to control people, you tell them, I have the secrets to the scariest thing in all of our lives, which is death and looming death and unknown death and all of those things that are terrifying to us and all of us that have consciousness. It's just a tale as old as time. That's what people will go after. That's the biggest vulnerability we all have, because no one really knows what happens. You can think it, you can have an opinion, you can have a faith, and that's all beneficial, I think. Well, some are beneficial more than others, but no one really knows at the end of the day. So this is just a modern version of any cult with a commercial spin to it. So I'm at the 2 hours now, just about. I think that was the most interesting part, that he is competing with Jesus. I don't think the Jesus people are going to love that, I would imagine. And they shouldn't, because it's not about like my religion versus your religion. It's like you're comparing yourself to Jesus. Like that just in and of itself is an ego out of control, I think. And it's like, what the message is, it's like, be rich, buy everything that you need that's expensive, buy hyperbaric chambers, have a mansion, have red light therapy, have $1 million of dispensable income to obsess over your body and to obsess over your health. And that's his real solution. And also like, well, buy my product while you're at it and watch my YouTube videos while you're at it. He claims to be serious, that he doesn't think he's going to die. That's either a mental illness that he's fighting, and that's why he's created this whole thing to like not have to deal with this mental illness that he's developed of a fear of dying, or it's all bullshit. And he knows that his extremeness, polarity is what gets attention online. He just cares about attention, and he cares about selling supplements. I don't know. It's a toss up. I don't know which one he is. I'm leaning towards he's a salesman. He's a very successful entrepreneur. I think that's the route I believe, less so that he's mentally ill and thinks that he's not going to die. But who knows? I don't know. I guess time will tell. Time will tell, am I right? For all these questions that we have. Anyways,
we hate him.
No, he's all right. He's no worse. He's in the same pool of scammer grifters of any of them, I think. He's no worse or better than the rest. I am on his side when it comes to the lawsuit stuff. I was, back then, I am still now. And, the stuff with the business is like par for the course, I guess. I don't approve, but because he's even in this space to begin with, I don't approve of the business. So is he worse than anyone else? I don't think so. But maybe we'll come back to this at some other point. That Shane Smith, he was the worst part of that interview. Once again, whoever Bryan surrounds himself with, I think he purposely picks really obnoxious people, because he always comes out looking like the better of the two options, but the options that he's against are like very low on the totem pole, in my opinion. Anyways, so that's it. What'd you think? Let me know. Thanks for joining me, and I'll be back next Thursday. And I think before Thursday, I'm going to have this gosh darn book report done because it needs to be done. I can't keep working on it. I'm sick of seeing it. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm done. Anyways.
Oh, I'm so sorry you lost.
That's what people tell me when I don't finish my videos on time.
Silly, dumb, incapable.
Oh, thanks, Starry Nights. Thank you. Thank you for the gifted memberships. We all appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Woo, woo. Did I miss anyone else? Thank you, Starry Nights. Anyone else? Anyone else? This one's for you. Shout out.
This is so good.
Appreciate.
No big deal.
That's what he says. All right, so now I'm going to sing my song, and then I'll be back. Okay, next week. Goodbye. Thanks to Starry Nights. Starry Nights. For those gifted memberships. Nicole Campbell, you already have one. That is really cool of you. that you are on the list to a console. I wanna do a funnel cake with you at the local carnival. Chels Marie, do you have a Christmas tree in your house right now? If so, it's time to take it down. Alaska, but tundra, you too. Just because you live in the winter world doesn't mean it's Christmas all year. It's almost April. Carasoto, did you know that? It's almost that time of the year when the companies make a joke on the 1st and say, April Fools, ha! I feel like April Fools is now just on Facebook and LinkedIn. Lisa B. April Fools is not the holiday for me. I don't like people who are lying or pranking. Lillian Massey, do you agree that it's nasty? Ow! To pull a prank on me, it hurts my feelings. Chris Johnson, what do you think about April Fool's tomfoolery? You just bought some jewelry for your fiancé. Yeah, last time, baby. Rob Sheehan, wouldn't wanna be him. Just kidding, you're the best. Rebel Fuentes, Rebel D, Rebel Eld. I will one day know how to correctly pronounce and say the correct note when I'm singing your name. And for that I say it's straight up gold. Mary, I have something to tell you. I love strawberries. So good. They are really good with whipped cream. It's so good I could scream. Then I could also eat ice cream with rainbow sprinkles. Yeah, that's the best way to eat ice cream. Good night, everybody.